everyone to the 13th meeting of the Standing Committee on the Status of Women, and thank you for joining us on our study of the effects of rural impacts for women that live in rural communities. Just a reminder that before speaking, I will recognize you by name, and you can click on the microphone icon to activate your mic. All comments should be addressed through the chair, and when speaking, please speak slowly and clearly for the translators. And when you're not speaking, your mic should be on mute. Today, we have with us from the Direct Sellers Association of Canada, Peter Maddox, President, and from the Grape Growers of Ontario, Debbie Zimmerman, the Chief Executive Officer. They'll each have 5 minutes to bring opening remarks, and then we'll go into rounds of questions. So, Mr. Maddox, we'll start with you. 5 minutes.
Thank you to the chair and thank you to the committee for giving me this opportunity to speak today. My name is Peter Maddox and I'm the president of the Direct Sellers Association of Canada. The DSA is the national association founded in 1954. We have over 70 company and supplier members across Canada. Our members include well-known and respected brands such as Mary Kay Cosmetics, Pampered Chef Cookware, Party Light Candles, Avon Cosmetics, USANA Health Sciences, and Cutco Knives. In Canada, the direct selling sales channel annually accounts for an estimated $3.5 billion in retail sales, creates $1.31 billion in tax contributions, and contributes $1.21 billion in personal revenue to the over 1 million Canadians who participate as independent sales consultants. 82% of independent sales consultants are women, and 31% live in rural areas, compared to around 19% of the overall Canadian population. Direct selling has deep roots in rural Canada. Just last week, I was speaking with the general manager of Mary Kay Canada, who spoke proudly about how many of her consultants in rural Newfoundland have seen sales growth and earned vital income during the COVID-19 pandemic. The success of our member companies and their independent sales consultants in rural Canada over many decades has been due in part to the ways that direct selling helps women overcome challenges created by living outside of large urban centres. Challenges often intensified by the COVID-19 pandemic, including 1, a lack of access to traditional bricks and mortar retail. When large retailers are not present in communities, direct sellers provide quick access to a wide range of products, as well as high levels of personal and local customer service. 2, a lack of employment and earnings opportunities for women. While direct selling doesn't replace large employers, it can provide vital additional income to assist in economic stability for individuals and families. This has been particularly relevant as the pandemic has created new challenges such as homeschooling. 3, difficulties in maintaining strong networks due to geographic and social isolation. Products and services sold through the direct sales channel often require some level of personal demonstration, traditionally via sales party events and more recently, virtual group events on Facebook Live and other digital platforms. This continues to connect people and proves healthy for mental and social well-being. Due to the challenges faced by women in rural Canada and the opportunity the direct selling channel presents, DSA Canada submits the following recommendations. Firstly, broadband internet access and digital literacy. The lack of reliable, affordable internet has been on full display for many communities during the COVID-19 pandemic. Furthermore, many people have been thrust into a world reliant on being digitally savvy for the first time. Without universal access to high-speed communication technology and the requisite skills to make use of it, the direct selling businesses of thousands of independent sales consultants are negatively impacted. This in turn impacts the general economic well-being of rural communities. The time for action is now. While the government has introduced a rapid response stream under the Universal Broadband Fund, more dollars are needed now to rapidly connect Canadians and to provide greater economic opportunities for those in underserved communities. The federal government should also explore new opportunities to provide digital literacy programs to ensure that Canadians, including those in rural communities and older populations, are able to actively participate in the digital revolution. Secondly, we ask that the government continues to consider non-traditional employment relationships and earnings opportunities when developing policies and programs. During the initial rollout of the CERB benefit, it quickly became obvious that it was developed with traditional employer-employee relationships in mind, without considering people like freelancers, seasonal workers, and our own independent sales consultants, roles that are often filled by women and those in rural Canada. To the government's credit, after conversations with numerous groups, including ours, the SERB program was modified to overcome some of its early limitations. We hope that in future, the development of support programs can be viewed through a lens that considers all Canadians and all employment types, particularly those in non-traditional roles. DSA Canada has significant knowledge that can assist in understanding the full spectrum of Canadian workers. The direct selling industry plays an important but often unsung role in the growth of the Canadian economy. We look forward to continuing to work with the federal government to ensure that this mutually beneficial relationship continues. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you. And now we'll go to Ms. Zimmerman for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today. I really wanted to start out by saying that this subject often feels like Groundhog Day. I hope the irony is not lost on anyone, recognizing today is just that, and a groundhog actually seeing their shadow. But it feels like the same conversation with little change. There's long been a wage and employment gap between men and women in Canada, and I draw your attention to a recent article in the Globe and Mail calling it's a wonderful story on the power gap and well researched over 2 years. I urge you to read it. But the Niagara region is no exception where women have fewer employment opportunities because oddly enough, the retail sector, which is the top employer in the Niagara region, employs more women who are paid less for the same work than their male counterparts. The economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic has served to really exacerbate these gaps, particularly in Niagara, as Canada looks forward to an economic recovery after a broad-based vaccination for the public. The federal government must consider these inequities and realize that women are already being left behind. I'd like you to consider some of these very basic facts. Before the pandemic, women in Niagara were already paid drastically less than their male counterparts across most sectors of the economy. In 2015, the most recent year this kind of data is available, we can see the pay gap in action, and the source is StatsCan for your review. In sales, for example, the median income for men was $57,000, while for women, $28,000. In trades, transportation for women, $28,000. Sorry, in trades and transportation for men, $54,000, and for women, $37,000. In business and finance, men earned $56,000, while women earned $45,000. The trend is the same in education, government, social services, and healthcare. The average salary for men in Niagara is $38,000. For women, $27,000. This is just not a fairness issue, although it is one, and not just an issue of gender bias. This is a critical social issue where the gender gap plays an important role in poverty. And I think the pandemic has obviously highlighted this for many women. In the part of Niagara where I live, which is semi-rural, I'm going to call it West Niagara, women make up a full 57% of those living on or below the income cutoff for families of 4. This data is using what I'll say is an example of a West Niagara or West Lincoln. In addition, women face the change and challenge of access to broadband internet. That was mentioned as a huge concern. The other problem we have, obviously, being in rural Ontario, is transit and social supports. For the context, for a family of 4, the low income cutoff for a family of 4 in this region is $30,000, and for a single person, $16,000. Keep in mind the context of women being paid less than men. Even at these meager wage levels, women are more likely than men to head the household of a single parent home, and more than likely to be the primary caregiver for children and elderly parents alike. Contextually, this means that there's a large number of women living on or below the poverty line that have to care for children, grandchildren, and parents. So what has the COVID-19 pandemic done to the situation? It has made that gap wider and the situation of women worse. If you look at the employment rate in Niagara back in February 2020, in the early days of the pandemic, at that point, the employment rate for men, according to Stats Can, was 56%, while for women it was 54.5%. As the pandemic rolled on and the economic crisis has deepened, the gap grew even wider. In March, for men, the rate was 54%, and for women, 50%. In April, 51% for men, 46% for women, and in May, 49% for men, and only 43% for women. The economic rebound has happened slightly over the summer, but mostly for men. In June and July, the employment rate was 50.5% and 53.3% for men, but remained at 43% for women. By September, the rate for men had climbed to 55%, but for women, it was only 49%. In other words, as jobs are coming back, they are coming back in fewer numbers for women and rather more for men. These trends have been...
You're out of time. We'll have to cover the rest in our questions.
Thank you.
We're going to go into our first round of questions. Each person will have 6 minutes, and to help you stay on track, when there's 1 minute left, you will get this card. And so we'll start with Ms. Sahota for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to both of you for your time and your presentation. You both touched on broadband access today. So my questions will be in regards to that. The House of Commons Standing Committee on Industry, Science and Technology noted in its April 2018 report on broadband connectivity in rural Canada that broadband service is significantly less available in rural areas than in urban areas. The committee suggested that this digital divide prevents Canadians in rural and remote areas from participating in the digital economy and exacerbates the challenges those areas already face. So to both of you, how does the digital divide exclude individuals living in rural areas from the digital economy?
I'm happy to go first, if that's okay. Definitely for our industry, so historically the direct selling industry was either people going door to door selling things or selling things via home parties, those sorts of things. Over the last 10 to 20 years, it's definitely evolved into more of a digital business, and that obviously has speeded up very, very quickly due to COVID-19. So basically, for all of our member companies now, doing home parties is not a thing. So they're doing all their selling via whether it's apps or desktops. That's their selling, taking orders, customer service, sending those orders through, tracking orders. And obviously, if you don't have access to good internet and affordable internet, then that is basically takes away that opportunity from those people. And I mean, I live in Toronto and I have enough trouble with internet a lot of days. I can only imagine what it's like if you're still on dial-up or on a lower level of internet. I was actually speaking to a rep from Avon earlier this week. She works in a lot of Indigenous communities in BC, and she said there it's basically impossible to do business, both from an order taking perspective, but also in terms of payments, because they do all their payments now through digital banking, and even that becomes very hard. So it's definitely a challenge, and a much more of a challenge in rural areas, and much more of a challenge for people who are older in the community who still want to make some income through something like direct selling, but do not have the requisite digital skills to be able to do that. So I think there's a huge opportunity in terms of economic activity being lost. So it needs to be seen as an investment rather than a cost.
Thank you. I think it's fundamental. If you look at rural Canada and the access to broadband network, it's not available in most communities. I think it's changing. But add the complexity of the pandemic on top of this, where a single parent family is usually head by women. They're trying to now manage their children for homeschooling as well. But I think what's important is it's an economic opportunity through retraining. And those opportunities can lift women from where they are seen as being an impoverished level to moving up to be getting some further education. So it's a huge opportunity if we take it as a country, not as an individual province. I think it needs that broader direction from a federal strategy rather than a provincial strategy, because it's quite piecemeal right now across the province of Ontario for access to broadband. In particular, I would say it's just not an issue for a woman. It's a family issue, especially as you have children that are schooled at home right now.
So to build on that, Ms. Zimmerman, I'm wondering if you can provide some thoughts on my next question, which is basically how, if at all, does the digital divide affect progress towards gender equality in Canada and in rural areas in particular?
Well, I think that I touched on it. It's that access to education. You know, when you can't do the traditional type of education by being in a classroom, the opportunity is there to do that, you know, working around other things. In particular, if you're having to work and then coming home, you're least likely to going back out to school. I think that type of education is no longer going to be the norm. There'll be more online learning. I think that's the dynamics that changes women's lives forever if they get that opportunity to access education and just good basic education.
Is there a gender gap in the digital divide? I know you both hinted on that, the women, because they run these businesses from home. There seems to be. I'm just wondering if you can build on that a bit.
For us, definitely there. I mean, our sellers are, as I mentioned, 82% women, so that's largely who we deal with in terms of the market that we're working with. And you know, in Canada, the weight of home responsibilities overwhelmingly fall on women, so they've got all these other things that need to happen during the day, whether that's, you know, home teaching or household chores or other jobs that they're doing. They may be doing 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. Direct selling might be a part of that. And to find time to access digital literacy training, or to research broadband internet and what's the best way for them to connect is just incredibly complicated. So I think there are some programs by province right now for digital literacy, and I think that they're very important, but it's very scattergun, and it's hard to go online and to find one that's in your region that teach. I suspect that what we would like the federal government to do is maybe to develop a portal where someone can go and find what's in their region. I don't think there's a need for the federal government.
Sorry, that's your time. Now we're going to Ms. Zahid for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to both the witnesses for appearing before the committee today. My first question will be for Mr. Maddox. As you know, that our government has made investing in rural broadband a key priority, launching a 1.75 billion universal broadband fund with the goal of connecting 98% of Canadians to high-speed internet by 2026 and all Canadians by 2030. We have certainly seen during our virtual parliament how challenging it can be for our rural and remote colleagues to participate. So could you please discuss how important reliable broadband access is to direct sellers you represent, many of whom are women, and how it's crucial to enabling women to gain this independent income source?
It's basically their business. If they can't access internet, then their business declines significantly, because that is how they do their business. I mean, I want to point out that our member companies themselves do a lot of this training with their consultants. So each of our member companies, when someone signs up as a direct selling consultant, very low investment for them, but the company still wants them to succeed. So they do a lot of digital training that's very specific to, you know, direct selling. They teach them how to use social media to promote themselves and to promote their products, and how to do things like Facebook Live. But once again, that's very difficult without access to the tools to be able to do that. And as we've seen, even for an institution as grand as the Parliament of Canada, there are sometimes issues in terms of how do we all connect. So you can only imagine if, you know, you're in Northwest Territories and you're trying to connect with people over quite a large region, and they have all sorts of different internet connectivities, then it creates difficulties. And as I mentioned before, it really takes away an economic opportunity that should be for all.
Yeah, yes. Now, all the advertisement mostly will be done through social media campaigns. So I think that will also be very crucial in what they can sell and how they can sell. So that's important. So for Ms. Zimmerman, how important is broadband access to your growers when it comes to production, marketing, selling, and other aspects of their business?
Well, it's absolutely.
So if you can comment on that also.
Yeah, it's a critical component of what we do, and because much of our work is done in a very technical way, we collect data from all of our production for our growers. So it's very important, and we don't have access. We're just starting to get high-speed internet in Niagara, believe it or not, but spotty at best. And we're trying to rectify that for a number of reasons. We need to, as a regional government, just because of the way in which we operate. But it's for a regional government, they need to be doing that, and for communities. I just want to touch on something that hasn't been mentioned, and why I specifically focused on the gender gap, particularly for women, is because the access to services is so critical, and it can and has to be other things besides broadband network. There has to be the social supports, which is childcare, and women need to have access to that to be able to take that next step. And we don't have a good strategy yet. I don't believe that there is a national strategy for childcare that has been implemented well over the time, and it's something that we should be looking at as well for the future. I'm not saying that the federal government should be responsible for everything, but it should be an integrated partnership with the provincial government to ensure that women have that chance to move up the ladder when they have an opportunity. But a lot of these things are holding them back.
Thank you, Ms. Zimmerman. I know we have gender gaps in many industries, but a question for both of you. Are either of you able to speak to the numbers of the visible minority women in your industry? So do you encourage their participation, and are they facing any unique or distinct challenges compared to their peers? So maybe we can start with Mr. Maddox and then come to Ms. Zimmerman.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely happy to answer that. Our industry, obviously, I mean, from a purely commercial sense, the more consumers we have and the more sellers we have, the better the industry is, the more it succeeds. So our member companies, particularly I would say over the last 10 years, have made a very great effort to be inclusive, to encourage people from various immigrant communities or visible minorities to join in with their sales plans. And, you know, sometimes that is as simple as bringing out so if you're a cosmetics company, that's simple as adding some cosmetics that suit, you know, different ethnicities. So that's very important for them. And from there, you know, particularly for some of our companies in BC, they do a lot of work in the Chinese community. So they do a lot of obviously things in Cantonese and Mandarin to appeal to that community. So it's definitely been, as I mentioned, from a commercial perspective, something that's very important. And that's reflected in the companies themselves, the home offices. We see more and more, that where traditionally a lot of our companies, even though they marketed to women, were run by men, now they're mostly run by women. I also visit those companies and I see that it's a very diverse business.
I think I'm running out of time, so maybe
Absolutely.
Ms. Zimmerman can also comment.
No, okay. You're actually out of time, so we'll go to Madame LaRouche. No problem. Madame LaRouche, 6 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both witnesses for being with us here today. Ms. Zimmerman, Mr. Maddox, you've confirmed that the pandemic has exacerbated problems for women, and you've also confirmed to me that the economic recovery needs to have a feminist approach. We need to have measures that are specifically designed for women to lift them out of poverty because their situation has worsened because of the pandemic. Now, a subject that comes up at a lot of committees these days and at the industry committee is the issue of internet, and you've both addressed it. I'd like to hear a few more comments from both of you, Mr. Maddox, Ms. Zimmerman. Have either of you estimated the value of the economy if the entire regions were covered by broadband internet? Do you have any figures to let us know what that would represent for the economy?
I do not have that information, unfortunately. It's very hard to calculate. I would suspect for our industry, it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of revenue, if not more. But it is difficult to get that information. What I would say, and I'll reiterate my point from before, is that this needs to be seen as an investment, not an expense. It's infrastructure, the same as roads and airports and schools and hospitals are infrastructure and their investments. I think broadband internet needs to be seen in that same way.
I'm sorry I didn't get the full translation, but I appreciate the response. That I got a sense of it was on the economics, so my apologies for that. But again, if this broadband network for a country of our side is going to be challenging, but quite frankly, it's necessary to keep pace with the rest of the world.
Parfait. Madame.
Ms. Zimmerman, you have broken a glass ceiling. You're a Director General of your association. But what does it mean for you to have broken this glass ceiling? People talk about difficulties for women to have all of this work to break through the ceiling and also to have the mental aspect, the additional duties. What does it mean for you? What does this reality mean for you?
Thank you for the question. I have a lot of bumps on my head. You know, when you're bumping up against the next rung, it's always a bit of a challenge to get to the next one. I would say it's probably taking me twice as long as any male to get where I had to go. Not that I mind that. I just would probably have had this career a lot earlier. But it's not without sacrifices for both family and many of the people in your world. That, you know, you're doing dual duty quite often. But I don't regret. I don't look back. I think I just want to see change for the future because we have this wonderful generation that we need to set example for. What disappoints me is we have not made the progress that we should have made. Thank you for the question.
Well, we know that the UN Secretary General has said that the pandemic can mean that we'll need several years before we can bridge this gap, this gender gap. Now, we see that business opportunities are fewer and far between because of the pandemic as well. It's more difficult. There's the issue of internet. There are transportation issues that are problematic because of the pandemic. So would you say that the overall business model is more adapted to women? It would enable them to develop their business sense and their businesses?
I will take that. That question was for me? Yeah.
Oui, à vous.
To you or to Ms. Zimmerman as well? To both of you.
Absolutely. So yeah, the genesis of our industry is supporting women, going back hundreds of years to women, or 100 years at least, to women selling makeup and those sorts of things. And it has developed around, typically this is not somebody's primary income, household income. It's something they do on the side. They make a little bit of extra money, whether that's to pay for a vacation or for, you know, something small like that. A small amount of women do it full time, but it's largely part time. And the great thing about it is it teaches transferable skills. So by being a direct seller, learning how to overcome some of the challenges that it throws up, learning how to network, learning how to do accounts, learning how to take and submit orders, they're skills that are transferable to so many other professions and jobs that are out there. So a lot of people For instance, Karen Vecchio, who was previously on this committee, she was a direct seller for Party Light, and I hope she won't mind me saying, but she suggests that was a really great step for her in getting her confidence that led to her being in Parliament. So I think that's an example of the power of our industry.
And that's your time. So now off to Miss Matheson for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. I think that it's really interesting to address Mr. Maddox. Of course, we talked about the significant impact that rural broadband has on women in your industry, and I know that that movement to social media is key, especially now, but overall. And while coverage has been promised, full coverage by 2030 by this government, it's actually, it can happen much sooner than that. And how important, I'd like to ask you how important it is that if we could do that in 2 or 3 years, which the industry has actually said that they can do with proper push from the federal government, how that would be important to your industry. I would also like if you could address the issue. Your members had campaigned for the inclusion under CERB to be able to earn the $1,000 a month minimum. And you talked about a lot of your members supplementing their income through the direct selling. However, I'd like you to talk about maybe how there's a lot of talk right now about a universal basic income and how important that could be as a baseline. So how would that also support a lot of your members going forward as we come onto hard times or just overall?
So on the first point, I like to think that broadband internet should be a huge priority for the government, because it's not just about broadband internet. It integrates with every part of the economy. It creates opportunities for learning. It creates opportunities for economic activity. And I know there's best practice from around the world on how it can be scaled up and scaled out very quickly. And there's no silver bullet. Some of it will be done by government. Some of it will be done by commercial interests. Some of it will be done by, satellite. Some of it will be done by hardline, all those sorts of things. So that there's no one answer, but the answers are out there if you look at some other countries that have been quite successful at rolling out broadband internet. On the second question, around universal basic income, I think if people can be supported in education and just getting to a basic level of living, then it adds so much to their life. I think there needs to be, and it was the same with CERB, there needs to be some sort of scalable, so as you earn, perhaps what you get goes down. CERB was just like one size fits all. So initially it punished those, even if you were earning $100, you couldn't get the $2,000. So fortunately that change was made. But subsequently, I think there needs to be, whether it's EI or CERB or some sort of son of CERB, there needs to be a scalable part of it whereby people aren't discouraged from earning. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to encourage economic activity. So whether that's universal basic income or some other mechanism, I think that's very important.
A lot of studies on universal basic income, of course, they lead to this ability for people to be freer to take on that education, to be able to take the time to expand what they do in the future and change maybe away from traditional workplaces into things that they want to be able to do to grow. So I agree with you in that. And in terms, Ms. Zimmerman, you spoke a lot about what we need to do in terms of our recovery in the future. Of course, childcare is key. Things like a universal basic income, affordable housing, and you talked a lot about the despairing gender gap, the pay equity gap. So could you talk more about what those programs, how those programs are needed, but the affordability, the accessibility, the universality of those across the board that are required to actually recover, not just for women, but for everyone in our society, but specifically, of course, for women and rural women.
Thank you. I would say that starting with some of the basic tools that you need to climb out of poverty are those assistance, and a basic income is something that is I know been talked about a long time, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of conversation on that in the future. But access to childcare is critical. I mean, that's an important role that we can't undermine for parents. That it gives them that a good childcare. We see what happens when we don't have well-operated long-term care facilities for our seniors. You can see if we don't. I mean, that's been so evident through this pandemic, where there's been a failure to apply the same basic rules to publicly run compared to privately run. So, I mean, those are just some of the things that you need is as access to those tools. And if it's part of a broader plan, I think everybody would welcome that. But change is necessary.
Yeah, and if there was a something provided by the federal government, like a Child Care Act, much like modeled like the Canada Health Care Act, where there's absolute accessibility and affordability, would that help? Yeah.
Well, look, you pointed out other countries. Look to the Scandinavian countries and how they deal with childcare. There's no distinguishing factor between, you know, what you earn and your access to childcare, because you pay it on your income tax. But I mean, there's lots of examples out there. It's you have to take action. Like I said in the beginning, my end of my comments was going to be, I don't want to be here for another Groundhog Day, because we want to see change, right?
Very good, and that's your time. Now we're going to go, I think we've got time to do 4 minutes for the CPC and 4 minutes for the LIBs. So we'll go to Ms. Sahota, 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Zimmerman, I'm going to ask you you were going to comment on the gender gap in Canada's digital divide, and you were cut off, so apologies for that, but I'm just wondering if you'd like to continue on with your answer.
Well, thank you. I know that it's been focused on today is that, you know, the digital divide for women, but I think having said, or what I said earlier is that you can see the disparity when women don't have access to the tools that they need. And you know, it's disturbing because it's not just at the level where there's the pay inequity as well at every level. And it's unfortunate we don't take, you know, jobs like yours as MPs. I mean, you're all paid equally unless you have a different role within Parliament. But, you know, why we can't apply some of those very basic fundamentals to other jobs that we have across the country. But I think the tools are there. It's just we need to start implementing it. And I really believe it is the federal government's responsibility as the central government to set those standards.
Thank you. I'm going to let MP Shin ask the next question, if we have any time left.
Thank you. It's a quick question. I think I'll direct it to Mr. Maddox. It was a pleasure to speak with you last week. Regarding the direct sellers, are there any business expenses that have been added on or have complicated in terms of things that these women would need for their sales that have been truncated, maybe even things like the supply chain not being able to reach with the products to rural areas? Any complications on the business end of things?
Yeah, I mean, definitely supply chain has been an issue, but that's been an issue for basically everybody in Canada, I think. A lot of our member companies are from US, and some of them ship from within Canada, but some ship from the US, so that creates difficulty. I mean, on the flip side, I would say for our industry, because people are looking to support their friends and family in business, because people can't go to bricks and mortar retail, our industry is actually, and because people are looking for ways to look after their health, and a lot of our members sell nutritional supplements and those sorts of things, it has been a reasonably positive time for the sales aspect of our business during the pandemic. And the move to digital has been, a lot of companies say we should move to digital, and they've been, you know, kicking the ground about it for years. They've been forced into it, and so have people. That's left a few people behind, but in the main, it's actually been, I hate to say positive experience when talking about COVID, but it's been a positive experience for a lot of our companies and members in that it's kind of forced them into the future a little bit.
And what are some ways that the sellers who aren't really internet savvy, where are some places they can look to for training for that?
There are some private online sellers. Often you have to pay for, trainers, you have to pay for training like that. As I mentioned, some of our member companies do their own digital training. And then in some provinces, there are online programs where people can, access some level of digital training, but it's fairly generic. So as I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit of a mishmash, and that's where I think the federal government can have a role in consolidating. Just a web page of links of places to go to get training would be an excellent start.
Excellent. Monsieur Serret, la dernière 4.
Mr. Serret, the last 4 minutes.
Especially the 2 points on broadband and childcare. I just wanted to, Mr. Maddox, to go back to your members. Please advocate to your members for broadband to go back to their municipalities, go back to the private sector. Obviously, broadband is private sector driven in Canada. It's the investments of the private sector that will drive it, but we need to push the private sectors to be investing in rural areas. And the reason I mention that is by doing that, then you'll be eligible the area for some of the federal programs. And I know, all of us here, all of us have mentioned broadband, which has been mentioned since the 1990s. All federal governments, provincial governments, even minority governments where the opposition had input on the budgets. No one has made broadband a priority with dollars except our government in budget 2019. That we added the 1.7, which with the private sector and provinces will look at about $6 billion. There's already a lot of communities that are already being funded over the last 60 days. So we got to continue advocating on that element. So please continue doing that. On the childcare, Madame Zimmerman, vous avez mentionné au niveau.
Ms. Zimmerman, you mentioned in terms of a national strategy, you mentioned the issues between the federal government and the provincial government compared to other countries that are similar. Could you provide us similar? Could you tell us some recommendations? How can the federal government work with provinces to make sure that we do have a concrete program in terms of quality of daycare for parents?
To try to you've asked me to comment on your provincial-federal relations, and I'm not sure I could fix that for you, but I would say that there are Scandinavian countries have some good models around childcare. They're may not have the same makeup between the federal and provincial governments, but I think there is the difference. And I mean to maybe step a little further, we even have differences in our own country between Quebec and the rest of the provinces in terms of childcare. So we have distinct differences in the delivery models, but I think there are some really good models out there that could be looked at that we could broaden. And I agree with your thinking on the broadband that it is a private sector, and there has been great success with the federal infrastructure program that's offered and is available. So, I mean, I think that's very encouraging.
Thank you. And if there's any recommendations, please submit it to the National Childcare Panel that's looking at specific recommendations. Mr. Zimmerman, when you talked about the 31% rural and 19% overall on rural women, the childcare, when we look at caregiving and parental leave, some of the investments that our government has made, has that helped your members being able to expand their businesses, some of those federal programs? And can you make a few recommendations to enhance the?
Are you talking to me or Peter?
Peter, and then.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I mean, every move that helps women helps our industry in terms of whether, and I don't know the specifics of the rollout of programs across the provinces, but if women have more time to focus on their business because they're not focusing on their kids or other things, then yes, obviously their businesses succeed. So they're very positive steps for our industry.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Yeah, I would say that, the opportunities that are available for women, because there is, there's such a challenge for them to be able to maneuver with these constraints of both financial and not having access to good childcare, especially in our region. I mean, it's spotty at best. even though we're 12 municipalities within a regional government, and we do have a social services supports, it's still not, and it's still not the best that we can. But I think it's an opportunity to take a look at and see how we can come up with some better ideas on how to get access to good childcare, not
Excellent.
just child. Thank you.
That's the time that we have for this panel today. So I want to thank Mr. Maddox and Ms. Zimmerman for your testimony today. And now we're going to turn our attention to the second panel on rural. We'll suspend while we do our sound checks. Thank you. We have today as an individual, Laurie Johansson and Wendy Rewerts. And then from the Central Alberta Victim and Witness Support Society, we have Louise Rellis, who's the Administrative and Client Support. Each of you will have 5 minutes to address the committee, and then we'll go into rounds of questions. And we'll begin with Laurie for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that it's always been a privilege of mine to be able to live in Alberta and farm in Alberta. But the last few years, it hasn't been so great since rural crime has really ramped up in our area and our province. It's been, I gotta say, it's been mentally draining and exhausting to be living with this and dealing with this, as I've been a victim multiple times, as well as other members of my family has been as well. And for me, it's terrifying to realize that I'm not safe in my own home and I'm not safe in my own yard or my own country. And it's, like I say, it's exhausting. Our sense of safety and well-being has been taken away by the criminals that think that it is their right and their entitlement to come into my house, my yard, my property, and take whatever they want. And, you know, the thing that really frustrates me is a lot of the times they're saying it's their right to be able to do this. And it's not their right to take those things away from me. And the one thing that really bothers me, and a question that I ask people quite often, is how do we get back to where we feel safe in our country, in our yards, in our homes, in our communities? Because right now that doesn't happen. Sorry, that's all.
No, that's fine. Very good. We'll go then to Ms. Rewerts for 5 minutes.
Hey, I totally agree with the last statement there. It's exactly what I'm going to be saying. Mine's written out here. My name is Wendy Rewerts from Cutknife, Saskatchewan, a rural community situated in north central Saskatchewan. I have lived in Saskatchewan all of my life. I'm married and have 2 sons that are married and have given us 4 wonderful grandsons. And together we operate a 15,000-acre grain farm. Over the years, life in rural areas has become more difficult. Rural crime is the biggest community issue we are dealing with. It is now a daily worry as to whether we will be able to sleep through the night without someone coming into our yards to see what they can steal. Theft of vehicles, machinery, tools, electronics is a constant worry. Police response time is anywhere from 1 hour to 2 days. Usually these thefts take place after midnight when the RCMP are out on patrol and are alone in the police vehicle and are not allowed to pursue a suspicious vehicle. When we have had to call 911, the dispatcher has no concept of rural areas. We use a legal land description as an address. They have no clue what we're talking about. They want a street address, but we don't live at a street address. Then they want the nature of the issue. When we state that a suspicious vehicle is in our yard, they then ask questions as to how do we know it is suspicious. This is all taking valuable time away from any chance of catching the culprits. By the time we actually have RCMP notified, the theft is long gone. The thief is long gone. And should we attempt to follow or confront the thief as we are considered the criminals, we should have the right to protect our own property. On 4 different occasions, it has been the same vehicle in our yard, and no one has been able to stop them. This is to the point of being terrorized. Many of these criminals are now carrying guns, knives, machetes, and who knows what else. This is very unnerving when during busy farm seasons, the women are home alone long into the night. We are nervous when a vehicle drives by slowly, wondering, are they just going by looking to see if anyone is home, or is it just an innocent person driving by? The police feel that as long as we have insurance, that is all that is necessary. We now know of people that have had so many insurance claims due to vehicle theft and property theft that they no longer are able to carry insurance. They are considered high risk at no fault of their own. Our hands are tied. We choose to live in the country because of our farming profession. We do not choose to live here and be terrorized by gun-wielding thieves. And this is not a gun issue, it's a crime issue. If by chance the thief is caught and faces charges, they are either covered under the Young Offenders Act or released waiting to appear before the court and get a slap on the hand and promise they'll never do it again, and home they go, just to do it all over again. Living in fear only adds to the sleepless nights, stress, fear of being the victim again. We are law-abiding, tax-paying citizens that are fed up with the lack of support we get from the RCMP and the legal system. I don't consider where we live as being remote, but it is rural Saskatchewan. We don't have the population that Ontario and other densely populated areas have. Our nearest neighbor is at least 5 to 6 kilometers away. Our nearest detachment is 35 kilometers away. Nearest hospital is 35 kilometers away. These are some of the issues affecting myself and other women living in rural areas of this country. I appreciate the time you have given me to voice my concerns that are having serious consequences on our general and mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Ms. Rellis for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Vice Chairs and committee members, thank you for the invite to speak today on the challenges women in rural communities face. I'm representing Central Alberta Victim and Witness Support. We're a non-profit society providing direct support, information and referrals to victims of crime and tragedy. We are housed at the Black Falls RCMP detachment. Our organisation serves a rural population in Central Alberta including large portions of Red Deer County and Lacombe County, an extensive geographic of 2,000 kilometres. Between August 2019 and August 2020, we provided 2,046 hours of direct victim support, 453 hours of court support, supported 1,226 victims, of which 361 were victims of bodily emotional trauma due to family violence, and 290 were victims of rural crime, where we are seeing an increase of guns being the weapon of choice. These are our two largest file components. The more common challenges we see women in our rural communities face with access to shelters and counselling, affordable and accessible childcare, affordable housing, affordable transportation, access to food, sustainable and dependable Wi-Fi and internet infrastructure, and assurance of their safety at home. Although the current pandemic has increased organizations' capacity to reach more clients by going virtual, the Wi-Fi and internet infrastructure is not there to support this demand in rural communities. Our vulnerable population often do not have data packages on their cell phones to enable typical Zoom calls. Some women in rural communities, and I quote, feel stigmatized about being a redneck and not feeling comfortable accessing resources in the city, end quote. It takes a lot of courage to reach out and ask for help. Too often they do not have a choice of where they go to access supports. For example, the food bank, if they need to access a food bank, it has to be a local food bank that services their area, whether it works for them or not. The vulnerable women in rural communities are often victimized further when trying to access emergency shelters, for example. They are expected to uproot their lives after already being traumatized and many times assaulted to travel to whichever urban centre has the available bed. This has been a huge factor in getting vulnerable women and children out of domestic violence situations. There is no regard taken for them and their personal lives and relationships. It is purely a case of if you need to access an emergency shelter, you must access the one you were sent to by Alberta Works in an urban centre. Oh, my apologies now. Those in rural communities have additional barriers in accessing services only available in urban centres such as government offices, courthouses or specialised medical services. Many do not have transportation available to enable access, and those services predominantly are only open regular hours. Rural crime is another major concern for women in our communities. They do not feel safe in their homes and struggle with more and more anxiety when their partners are gone to work or they are home alone in the evenings or nighttime. Their mental health is suffering. Too often, funding and services are routed to larger towns and cities, and there is nothing available for struggling families in rural Alberta. Many urban organisations receive funding for outreach programs to support those in rural communities, but many times the rural population must travel to those urban centres to access. And they are often not adaptable to different challenges in different communities. There is an inequitable distribution of funding. Rural communities need to build their capacity to support their community members. We need to stop victimising victims further. Funding needs to be equitable between urban and rural communities. Take, for example, victim service units. Our rural unit is capped at $150,000 per annum, funded by Justice and Solicitor General. But up to 8 urban victim service units receive double that amount. We cover a larger geographic area and we respond to all calls requesting support. Some urban communities have specialised response teams available, for example, domestic violence response team and sexual violence response teams. Those victim service units don't respond to those calls, domestic or sexual violence in an urban centre. The messaging this is portraying to rural women is that they are not valued the same as their urban counterparts. They must endure more challenges to access resources while also having to leave their community to do so. By connecting with the women in our community when they are victims of crime, we assist them in bridging the gap from hurt to hope while strengthening their relationships with our community members and their belief that they are protected. They are seen, they are heard, and they are valued. We are often the only connection they have. We would strongly recommend keeping funds for rural communities in those rural communities themselves. Build their strengths where they are needed most and help them feel safe in their own homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to begin our rounds of questioning, 6 minutes each, starting with Blaine Calkins for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the witnesses. Your story is one that I've heard dozens and dozens and dozens of times in the last number of years. In 2017, Alberta MPs released a report towards a safer Alberta dealing specifically with rural crime, and things don't seem to have gotten any better. My question, I'll start off with Lori and Wendy, is how often would you say, and would you say that the crime that you're witnessing or the crime that's affecting your communities, is it local people doing crimes in your communities, or is it people that you don't know or are largely unaware of coming into your areas?
Do you want me to take that one first? Okay, I had submitted a document that basically said the same thing that Mrs. Wirtz had said. And for that, I think for us, because we're stuck between Edmonton and Calgary, we get it from Edmonton and Calgary, and then we get them from Red Deer as well, because I live about 10 minutes west of Red Deer. So quite often when these guys are on the move, they're coming from Edmonton and Calgary to Edmonton, and then they chase them out of Edmonton and they chase them out of Sylvan Lake, and they wind up in my area.
I totally agree with what she's saying. It's not always local ones. We're about an hour east of the Alberta border, so we too, you share your criminals with us. Sometimes they cross the border, but a lot of ours as well are coming out of the gangs out of Lloydminster and North Battleford. I could name you more places, but I don't want to be pinpointing names or anything like that. But the gangs are the problems right now, and they are intimidating the police, and the police don't seem to have the authority that they used to have.
So the lack of respect for the police and the rule of law and organized crime, it sounds like what's happening is organized crime is figured out, and this is what we've heard numerous times as MPs. Organized crime has figured out that if they go into the rural areas, response times, RCMP presence, and it's just so much easier. And they've actually set up shops in certain rural communities. They've acquired property, doing chop shops, meth labs, and so on. And because of the sparse population that we have in rural areas, instead of having these things set up in a city where you've got thousands of homes in the area, you've got a handful of homes in the area of some of these organized crime spots in rural Alberta or rural Canada, and you get terrorized over and over and over again. Would you agree with that statement?
Most
Yes,
definitely.
I would.
I guess, there's lots of other socioeconomic issues that can be discussed about this, but one of the few things that I have as a legislator that's available to me is changing legislation. Would you say that there's widespread support in rural areas for changes to the criminal code that would result in slowing down or ending the revolving door, is what we like to call it, or catch and release, depending on your preferred phrase? These people are repeat offenders, are they not? You're seeing the same people over and over again coming back to your community. You can, in some communities, know them by name. You know that when they're in jail, you'll have peace for a little while, and when they're back out, you know that you have to be on your guard. Would you support, as strong women in your communities and your families, would you support stronger sentences for repeat offenders?
Yes, that would help a lot, because you're very true. When you know one has gone into jail for some time, you can breathe a sigh of relief, because that one isn't out on the road right now. But they seem to replace them with someone else that's quite available.
It's frustrating. Louise, thank you very much for bringing a wide breadth of issues before the committee today. But I will ask you specifically about rural crime, specifically in central Alberta. In your time that you've been in your role, what have you seen insofar as overall trends when it comes to rural crime and the need for victim services for particularly women in the rural community? And I know that it was mentioned, but I grew up on a farm. And there was lots of time during harvest or during other busy times, me and Dad would be out doing something, and Mom was home alone for lots of time. And are we seeing a disproportionate effect for women in rural areas?
Yes, definitely, Blaine. For us ourselves last year, for rural crime out of our unit and files, we saw a 700% increase in the supports we had to give in our community. A lot of those suspects, they know exactly when to hit the rural community. They know the farmers, they know when the men are out working. The women are often at home, and a lot of women predominantly are the caretaker at home, and they're on their own. and they have a fear on their own. As I mentioned, guns are increasingly becoming the weapons of choice. We are seeing quite a few machetes, as mentioned before too, but it has been guns that increase weapon of choice. The thefts of vehicles between one farm to another, and the mental health of our constituents in our community, in our rural communities, it's heartbreaking when you're speaking, especially to mom, because she's at home with the kids. She's not just worried about somebody coming in and breaking in and taking something. She's worried about her kids' safety. She's worried about her kids being in the wrong place at the wrong time. If they're unfortunately walking out the back door to walk to the garage or shed or wherever that is, it's an ongoing fear that's building and building and building. And it is, especially with COVID, unfortunately, with COVID, with the justice system, too many cases are being, how can I say, not to say thrown out of court, but because the courthouses are on reduced capacity, so many files we are seeing are just being, they're not being pursued with. So it is those repeat offenders. They're back. They're there. They're repeatedly offending because they know it's.
I'm sorry, that's your time.
Okay.
Now we're going to go to Ms. Hutchings for 6 minutes, and at the 1 minute mark, you'll see the yellow card.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And witnesses, look, thank you so much for being here today. I'm an MP from rural Newfoundland. I represent the west coast of Newfoundland, and my riding is as big as Switzerland, maybe not as big as some on this call, but I hear the same stories that you do. So in my riding, I have 9 RCMP detachments and 1 of the Newfoundland Police, the Royal Newfoundland and Labrador Constabulary. And in Newfoundland and Labrador, the RCMP servicers are contracted by the province. So the province kind of says, we want you to go here and there and do this and that. But I hear the same story every day. It's 3 or 4 hours between each of the detachments. And in my landmass, I have 4 women's shelters. So it's the same thing. So, you know, we are working on a national action plan. I just want to start with a couple of things first. Louise, the incredible work that you do in your organization, have you ever applied for federal funding?
The funding applications goes
in
to
the Calgary, Alberta Victims in your society.
In our society, the funding goes to our executive director. She applies for all of our funding, so I can't speak to exactly knowing what funding is exactly applied for, other than Justice and Solicitor General funds our core organisation.
Okay, because there have been funds allocated, especially since COVID-19. There was $100 million put in emergency response to go to shelters, and it was over 1,500 organizations, and to help them do this important work during the pandemic. So I'm going to look offline and get back to you or someone will to find out if you haven't, where you need to apply.
Awesome, thank you very much.
So what I'm hearing is, my pleasure, my friend. What I'm hearing is what I'm hearing in rural Newfoundland too. Maybe not to the extent, but what the RCMP and what the authorities tell me here, a lot of the crime is based on drugs, and it's getting more and more rampant in the rural areas. So the theft is people stealing to get the funds for drugs and all that. So would you tell me that you have a terrible drug problem in your rural part of the country that you live in as well?
I think the drug issue,
that's for all of you,
is not to blame it all on COVID, but it does seem to be increasing. And I think it's across the board, rural communities, because it is so easy in and out. And unfortunately, copper is a high commodity now too. And we're seeing a lot of our industrial areas are hit for copper thefts, because once they go to sell it, they don't need to prove it's theirs. And that's another issue that I hope it's probably for another day, another conversation, but proof should be requested on selling copper. If there was some kind of legislation implementation for that, then it makes it a lot more harder for them to get rid of it when they have to prove that it's actually theirs and not stolen. So a lot of it, while it is drugs, it is gangs, some of it is, not to say it's all drugs, but it is definitely an ongoing issue, unfortunately.
Okay. Lori and Wendy, I forget which one of you now sent that moving document for us to read. And I live in rural Newfoundland. I live pretty well, 15 minutes from anywhere. And you made me lock my door last night because I was like, wow, that can happen anywhere. So when we speak about women in rural, how different is it, and I'm looking for your answer now, for women in the geographic isolation? How does that affect the ability of women living in rural areas to access emergency and support services? You mentioned how the RCMP and the police services are so far away, but are there other things as well? Like when we talk about connectivity, one thing that we've heard in some of our other testimony is that, and I love to tell this story, my colleagues have heard it from me before, my mother always put a quarter in my backpack, that if you needed, that was long before the day of cell phones, that you would have a quarter to make a phone call. Well, we don't have phone booths anymore. So do we need, in our work on connecting the country, do we need to have in communities areas that women in need, women looking for protection, have a community, internet connection that's safe and secure, be it in a town library, a town hall, be it in a women's shelter? Is that important for women in your area? I'll go to all of you on that.
I would say, yeah, it is. And the point I'd like to get across is, or one of them, and I've had this discussion with Blaine as well, is everybody seems to think that even though you're a long ways away from a police detachment, you have problems with that. Well, I'm not. I'm only 4 kilometers from my police detachment, and quite often we don't get a response out of them. So I think there needs to be better communication all around for everything, because we really have nowhere to go, nowhere to turn other than our MPs or our MLAs.
I could add to that our cell service in rural Saskatchewan is absolutely horrible. At our farm, it's not uncommon to go an hour or more with absolutely no cell service whatsoever. And if you're actually at the house, you probably will have a bit of cell service that you can rely on, but it's not reliable at all. And you go 5 kilometers from our yard and there's no cell service at all.
Okay. As you may or may not have heard, we're working on a national.
Sorry, Goody, that's your time.
All right. I didn't even get the 1 minute warning. Oh, my Lord.
Worried. Oh, no, it came and went. Madame LaRouche, 6 minutes.
C'est vrai que ça passe très vite.
Well, with good witnesses, time really flies by. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. I'm from a community that is called Shefford. And so we're a small community. We're facing very similar issues. And I have a question for you. Ms. Rellis, you talked about funds for the shelters and in rural areas, and you talked about the difference between urban areas, rural areas. I'd like you to talk about your funding in those issues, if you could.
Thank you. Our funding, we are capped at, our unit is capped at 150,000 per annum. That is regardless of how our files have grown extensively over the last number of years. The supports that we can offer in under our mandate to provide direct support until people's victims' own support systems kick in. We are very limited in how we can offer that support. So we rely on Alberta Works a lot for our victims, and when it comes to accessing shelters. So the shelters available to our victims when they ring is where we have to take them, or where they have to go, I should say. We don't even have the capacity to take them. We can get them a taxi transportation again through Alberta Works. So in that aspect of the funding is, we have women in rural communities with their kids. Their lives are in the rural communities. The kids go to school in the rural communities. If they're trying to leave a domestic violence situation and they're med go to Calgary, but yet they live in Lacombe County, that's uprooting everything. That's re-victimizing them when they're already going through something that's so traumatic. They're already at a heightened level of anxiety and stress and everything, to try and streamline the funding, make it equitable, that what can we build within communities that we can help those victims when they need it most, and not re-victimizing them by pulling them away from, yes, their home life is not a safe place because of the domestic violence, but where can we take them that it's not tearing them away from absolutely everything that they know.
Parfait. Vous avez parlé que vous avez.
You said there was an increase in the number of cases. Could we say then that the pandemic has caused a great deal more distress? Now, we've seen a significant increase in domestic violence. In other cases, there has been there have been situations where people are stuck and in quarantine with their aggressors. So it's very difficult. I'm sure that you've seen some things like that. Is it there's an increase in cases, but is it occurring where you didn't see it in the past, where violence didn't increase, but has the pandemic caused greater domestic violence in your areas?
To be honest, from our perspective, we're actually afraid that a lot of the victims are not contacting us because with the restrictions in place, with so many people out of work, the victims are stuck at home. As you said, they're in isolation quarantine with their aggressors. They can't contact us. They can't reach out. They can't get that message out there. So while we are definitely we're seeing an increase in our calls. We're seeing an increase in our calls looking for support but not wanting charges. We're seeing an increase in that mental health issue, and we are trying our best in our capacity to try and support them and in our recommendations of what their next step is. And we're seeing that across the board in regards of the rural crime issue and our increase in those files. We're also seeing in our conversations with community members, they're not reporting because they don't see the point. They're not getting the supports they need in the rural communities. We're recommending, and I'm recommending everywhere, like, report it. We need to know what's happening. We need to know where it's happening. We need to know how frequent. But we are increasingly getting the message of there's no point because there's nothing being done about it.
Et j'imagine, yeah.
And I think that the stress and distance, there is even greater isolation for these women. So they must really take even more time to reflect on getting help when they're caught up in rural communities.
It is taking them longer they're talking themselves out of reaching out. They're not seeing the support that they need in their rural community. So it's, what's the point? They can't do anything for me here. I'm not going to get the help that I need. So when we do get word, when we do reach out to them, we have so many barriers that we have to try and knock away to build their confidence in letting them know, yes, we're here for you in whatever capacity we can help, but trying to strip away the barriers that they have built up as a defense mechanism for them, and also their feeling of they're not worth it because they're not seeing the supports available in their communities.
Very good. And then we'll go on to Ms. Matheson for 6 minutes.
I know I'm truly always moved by the incredible work that organizations like yours, Ms. Rellis, do, because that hopelessness, that despair, that lack of feeling like you have options and choices, that is so fundamental or is the exact opposite of where we need to be in terms of those supports for women. And so I'm so grateful for the work that you do. So I want to sort of build a little bit from what Ms. Hutchings was talking about in terms of that funding. You don't receive federal funding. I would be so grateful to her and her office if you need supports as well to see where you need to go for some of that federal funding if possible. You talked about being capped. Why are you capped? I just don't understand that.
From my understanding, and as I said earlier, our executive director is over the funding aspect, so she would have more information on that. But up to, I want to say 2 years ago, all victim service units were capped at 150,000 of a funding grant. It was
provincially.
Yeah, and we were continuously told that they were trying to access to victims of crime funding, and that was changed to what our belief was, that victim service units could actually access that funding when it got reconfigured. And then 2 years ago, urban centres were granted twice the amount. They were given 300,000, while all the other units, rural units, were still capped at that 150 mark. And unfortunately, I'm 5 years with the unit now, and I have seen in my role and my position with them, I started as an advocate, volunteer advocate before my position, and the files increase that we have seen is phenomenal. That it just, even me as a community member, shocks me that we're still capped at the same funding amount.
Yeah, and a lot of the organizations that you work with, I think that you're in the same boat. You rely upon individual donations, fundraisers, and so on, and that, of course, has been impacted, like so many, by COVID. Your inability to run typical fundraisers. Have you've heard that as well from a lot of the organizations that you rely upon? I assume,
yes,
or that you work in partnership with. One of the things that I've been pushing for is that do receive federal funding. Or any sort of government support, is that there is a fundamental shift away from that project-based to a core operational funding model, so that you don't have to shift so much. Would you be in support of those sort of moves? Do you see how that would help, and give examples of how that would help your organization?
Yes, for sure. I feel in an equitable funding distribution, in coming out to the rural communities, coming out to those organizations and seeing, even looking at the history of our budgeting and our funding applications and how much it has grown, our operational cost is greater than our funding. It's greater than what we receive in funding. And looking at that and how much that has built over the years is a clear example of we're not getting enough to support the victims that we need to support. Costs of everything is increasing over time, all across the board. So even in that sense, the funding kind of should match the increase of costs. But if we did know that we had the core funding to do what our core unit can do, and then we can have the access to like programs, it would be showing the value to even what we do as a unit. Like, we are first responders, we get called to, I'm sure you can all imagine what we get called to at times, but we are not seeing the worth in what we do. We are seeing that, okay, you do important work, but you're not worth paying what your value is. And just seeing that increasing, disheartening, you could say, that you have to fight to get what your worth is, and it's not for yourself, it's not personal gain, it's to get out to those people in the communities, in the rural communities especially, to say, here, we're here, we've got you. We're not sending you to an urban centre, we're not sending you 50 kilometres somewhere else. We have you right here where you're needed.
Just to shift a little bit, so a colleague of mine has introduced a private member's bill that would help address domestic violence, which of course you also help with, you see a great deal of. It would help in terms of making controlling or coercive conduct in those intimate relationships a criminal offense. So in your experience, would you agree that police often lack the ability to intervene in those domestic violence cases until it's too late, until something actually physically has happened? And could you talk about, this is something the Federal Ombudsman for Victims of Crime has supported, this type of legislation. Would you and your organization be supportive of this type of legislation? And what do you think would specifically help with if this type of legislation was enacted?
For sure, I for sure see it's something that we would get behind. Touching on that with officers in domestic violence, and this is in no way to diminish their role or their capacity. Sometimes, and it's human too, they see the hard stuff daily. The officers see the hard stuff. So when they're called to domestic violence, and the victim is not openly saying what happened, won't give a statement, they're tied. There's only so much they can do. And not to say they're diminishing the importance in that role, but when they've seen those accidents where someone's on the side of the road, those workplace accidents where they've seen a tragic situation, and then they're coming to a home where the victim looks okay, she says she's okay, not making a statement. Well, there's not much they can do. While the bruising is on her body, it's not visible. Like the fear in her to actually voice, help me, is trying to break that barrier is just, and the officers, they don't see that because they have seen so much worse. So even re-educating and trying to build the capacity, for sure.
So I'm sorry, that's
shifting
the end of your time. We're going to go into the second round of questions now, and we'll start with Blaine Calkins for 5 minutes.
My goodness, my first day at this committee in years, and I'm getting all the time. But I appreciate that, Madam Chair. I want to go back to Lori and Wendy, if I can. Would you say, based on your talking to your neighbors, I mean, you both indicated clearly that you've been victimized numerous times, you don't feel safe. If you were to go and talk to your friends and neighbors in your respective communities, would they have the similar experiences to you? Have they all been victimized as well? Would you, and what would you say that percentage is if you took a 10-mile swath all around you in rural areas? Would you say that most people have been, for lack of a better term, hit by now?
Thank you for bringing that back up. Yes, I would say, because we help run our Rural Crime Watch Association, and we are quite often the first email that comes from the RCMP comes to us. And because we, like I say, we're so close, if we took a 10-mile radius here, you would have very few people who have not been hit by rural crime at least once. Quite a few people have been more often than once.
It's the same in Saskatchewan. In our area, it's a 10-mile radius. I would say 80% of the residents have been victimized not only once, but numerous occasions. Vehicles being stolen out of their yards and that sort of thing. So it's for sure several times.
So we're looking at just roughly anecdotally anywhere from 80 to 80% and up of a victimization rate in your neighborhood. Somebody's been, and I'm talking about in recent, like not 25 years ago. I'm talking recently. See, when I grew up on the farm, I think the biggest threat we had when I was younger was maybe somebody'd pull up to the gas tank, pull up to the purple gas, and fill up a car. You know, the very little stuff went missing, and now that's not the case at all anymore, is it?
No, we have security cameras and inside the shop building and outside in the yard, and we've had video of these culprits coming in, but they're wearing masks or they have their hoods up and they're smart enough to have their backs to where they see the cameras. And so it's of no use to the police when we show it to them. They can't identify anybody.
So in our case, like I said in my statement to you before, the first time they came in the house and they just took menial things, but when they were in the second and the third time, they were after the big stuff, as well as our guns that we use to put down cattle that are need to be put down or whatever. But they're after more, not just the fuel anymore. We have had that as well. The second time they were in, they were after the fuel, but they were also standing there with cigarettes. So we're not quite sure how that would have worked out had they got the nozzle off the tank. But we find in this area here, it's more your big things. It's like your quads that, you know, and we use those every day to move our cattle and stuff and work with our cattle. So it's kind of, here it's kind of a little bit of everything, but mainly they're after guns. They're after guns and they're after the ammunition that they can use to use those guns. Ours was hidden in our shop. They had to work in there for a long time to find it, and they managed to get it.
Yep. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Would you say a general consensus in your community, notwithstanding my encouragement to report all crimes, would you say what are the barriers to reporting crimes, and are people just throwing up their hands and saying, "What's the point?" And how much do you think goes unreported in your areas, anecdotally?
I would say in our area it's a lot, because it's the same comment is nothing gets done, so why bother?
It used to be that was the first thing you did was call for assistance with the RCMP, but now it's to the point people are saying what's the point? It's
So-
a waste of our time of sitting on the phone trying to get through to somebody, and the response time is so long.
So you're telling me that very few people are reporting, and Louise has already suggested that there's a 700% increase, which is reported, which tells me that the number of increases in rural crime must be astronomical. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Yes.
Yes. And it used to be, you hoped for a big snowstorm so that the roads were bad and the back roads would be blocked off and they didn't have access to shoot across a field. Well, now they're coming with 4x4 vehicles that they can plow through those snowbanks. And so time of year, time of day doesn't matter to them anymore.
Would you
All
say
right.
that?
And now that's your time. We're going to go to Miss Dillon for 5 minutes.
Thank you to our witnesses for being here today and giving such important testimony. I'll start with Mrs. Relis, just to pick up on what you said before, that even when the officers show up at the homes of domestic violence victims, that they are not able to have them file a report. And have you noticed that this is, have the officers spoken to you whether they've noticed if it's been worse since the pandemic began? Because as we all know, and we've heard in testimonies, that during the pandemic, it's become worse, domestic violence, because the perpetrator is in the house with them. So is the victim very reticent to give her report because he's there in the background? Thank you.
Yeah, we've seen even in our conversations in the detachment officers, our conversations have grown. Even they're coming to us more saying, hey, they do recognize that the victims are at home with their aggressors. So they're coming to us and saying, hey, we were called to this house. She's not making a statement. Doesn't want to press charges, but we feel there's something, going on. So they are reaching out in a sense when they have the time to. So it's not to say that they don't always see the importance, but if they're being called to a more severe situation, it's not that they forget about that client, but it's just it's pushed to the back of their mind because they have a criminal code file that they're handling. But we are seeing an increase in those referrals from the officers. We are seeing an increase for sure in conversations where it is the women at home, and we're seeing an increase in the youth that are suffering from this as well. We have youth at home with mom and with dad, or whoever the aggressor is, either way, they're stuck in that. So oftentimes, yes, it is the mom that, excuse me, that we have to reach out to, but too often times the youth are still left there in that home, in that environment, with nobody reaching out to them. As much as we try, our capacity is so much.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to ask 2 questions at the same time, and also ask you, in case we run out of time, if all 3 witnesses can send their recommendations to ensure that rural issues are reflected in our national action plan. So I'll start first with saying that asking you, what are some of the most innovative and effective ways you have seen communities come together in the interest of preventing gender-based violence and supporting, survivors and their families? Because as you know, throughout the pandemic, the increased reports of domestic violence have been referred to as the pandemic with the pandemic. So our government recognized immediately that we needed to provide additional supports for the organizations that deliver these essential services to women who are fleeing violence. The $100 million in emergency aid has supported over 15 or 100 organizations across Canada. And Minister Munsif remains committed with her provincial and territorial partners to deliver a national action plan to end gender-based violence. What would be your recommendations so that the needs of women in rural communities are reflected in this national action plan? Thank you so much.
for me, I feel an equitable distribution of funding between urban and rural centres. If funding is funneled more into the urban centres to build the capacities there, we need more officers, we need more patrols, we need way more officers than we have in our detachment to cover the area. Like, it always shocks me, the geographic area that our small detachment with our 10 plus officers have to cover on a 24/7 basis to get from one end to the other. I think getting more officers out there, getting boots on the ground, and building the conversations within the communities, bringing those victims together, saying, we hear you, what can we do for you, what capacity can we build here, because we have the services, and instead of funneling it to outreach programs in the urban centre, funnel that funding to the rural community.
Very good, and that's your time. Okay. Now we'll go to Madame LaRouche, 2.5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to continue, Ms. Rellis, with regards to barriers and defence mechanisms. I'd like to continue our dialogue on that matter. When it comes to remote communities, how are these cases more difficult to deal with, and how can you explain that there are more cases in remote areas? Is it a question of lack of education, lack of housing? Could you give me a better idea of why remote areas have higher cases, why rural areas also have higher cases as compared to urban areas?
Higher cases of rural crime, is that it?
Are there more cases in rural or urban areas? Is it a question of lack of education or lack of housing? Would that exacerbate the issue?
Okay. I think in a lot of cases it is a lack of access. It is rural communities have a vast area outside of urban, and it's not so much as a lack of education, although we have seen historically those in rural communities are less likely to go into post-secondary education, but it is the lack of, or the barriers that they are faced when they do try to reach out to services. Unfortunately, for some reason, different organisations have a different geographic area that they cover. So sometimes one resident in Lacombe County, for example, might reach out to a particular organisation, but because of where they are located on a map, that organisation does not represent them, and they are forwarded on to another, and it's an increasing of barriers and increasing steps they have to take that a lot of times it's more frustrating and adding more stress to them, they feel, than just putting up.
In services like healthcare services, there is a difference between urban hospitals and healthcare and rural hospitals and healthcare. Ms. Johansson perhaps may have something to say about it. She mentioned hospitals. Could you talk about the difference between hospitals and access to healthcare between rural and urban centres?
Unfortunately, that's your time. We're going now to Ms. Matheson for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you so much. One of the things that was brought up was the lack of, when you are a victim of crime, access to the proper insurance cuts you right off. And I know, so while my riding is urban entirely, I grew up in a very rural area, and we were targeted because of our, you're off the beaten path, it's not as seen as much. We were targeted a few times, and it was very frustrating because even though my parents, they did absolutely everything they needed to in terms of coverage, alarms and everything, the insurance company still threatened to cut them off. Now, I know that this is entirely provincial, but would you agree that in terms of a movement against, or there should be greater regulatory changes or things that must be done for the insurance company to ensure that they can't do that to further victimize people in rural areas?
I would say yes, because like it was stated before, that a lot of these things that are happening to us, we can't stop them. We have no way to stop them, short of dealing with them so they're not walking off your property again. We don't have a way to deal with it. And if we don't have insurance, then we're on the hook all the time for whatever they're stealing or they're destroying or whatever. There has to be something that comes along that lines. Thank you.
Sorry, the other. Do you have anything to add?
I was just going to say that you know, if they take a large item, per se a vehicle, okay, it is worth your while to put in the claim and deal with the insurance company. But a lot of them, when it's tools and that, they're smaller items, and your deductible minimum is going to be $2,500. So when it's smaller stuff, you know, those things just go by the wayside. Okay, yes, we were vandalized last night and they took, you know, odd tools and things like that, especially off a piece of equipment or something. They'll go through the toolbox on it and clean it out. Well, you're not even sure what was in there, for one thing. So unless you can justify paying the deductible, you don't even use the insurance, because then that goes against your claim record.
And that's your time. And actually, that's the end of our panel time today. So I want to thank the witnesses for giving us a snapshot of what's happening in our nation from rural crime and what women in rural areas are experiencing. And I want to let the rest of my committee members know that we'll be seeing you Thursday to talk about pay equity and finish our report on the impacts of COVID-19 on women. Is it the will of the committee to adjourn? And the meeting is adjourned. Thanks so much and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.